Hello, this is The Load, or for those of you who know me in real life and know what my name is, my name's Lizzie, so Load or Lizzie, either or works fine if you want to address me. This is going to be my YouTube channel, and I'm going to dedicate it pretty much entirely to talking about dragons and various mythical serpents and all that jazz. And I'm going to make this first video as sort of an introductory video to dragons and also the different body types of dragons and why they still are dragons. So, let's define what a dragon is, and since this is my channel, I'm going to be defining dragons how I define them. Which I mentioned on my Dragon Discourse blog. Essentially, for me, a dragon is a fantastical reptile or serpent that is not intended to just be a different kind of other animal. Like, the turtles that are so big that they're islands aren't to me dragons because they're very clearly intended to just be very big turtles. Now this gets a little tricky the further back you go with dragons, but basically the main way I define it as a dragon is that it needs to be a fantastical reptile that is in some way intended to be a distinct creature in its own right, not just, this is just a turtle that we have a myth about, like, this is just, like, a gecko that is in our myth. Like, dragons need to be in some way distinct. So that's the first and primary definition. The second definition I have is that a dragon is any creature which, while not necessarily a reptile or serpent, fills the role of the dragon in its story. So an example of that would be the Greek monster Cetus, which is sort of just like a generic chimerical sea monster, but like when you read the story, like it's like Andromeda's a princess, she's up chained to a rock, and like this monster rises out of the sea to come meet her, and it's defeated and slain by a hero. That's a very dragon-esque myth, and probably helps give rise to like the myth of St. George. So while Cetus originally may not have necessarily been what we would call a draconic creature, the role it fits in the story is very draconic. Like another example would be also from Greek mythology, the Chimera. If you look at the myth of the Chimera, it's a very draconic myth, even if the creature itself isn't necessarily draconic. So those are the two ways I define dragons. The primary way is a fantastical reptile of some kind, ideally one that is distinct from other reptiles in some way, and the secondary one is a creature that fits the draconic tropes in its particular myth or story. So with that in mind, I'm going to go through basically the key body types that you see with dragons. And, okay, the first body type is the dragon body type, the classical Western European heraldic dragon. The 4 legs, it's got wings, and that's it. It's a 4-legged winged reptile. Now, the issue with this, where you see a lot of the like contention of like, oh, that's not a dragon, that's a wyvern, is this dragon has no unique name. There's no single word you can call a 4-legged winged dragon that isn't just a dragon. So, the example I usually use is like tigers and cats are, like tigers and house cats are both cats, but like tiger has its own name, a house cat is just a cat. Like the name for the creature is also the name of the group. So there is no like nice neat name for a 4-legged winged European dragon. In my personal stories, I've taken to calling them thrakons, which is kind of derived from Greek. My friend Tyrantus Terror, which, to be honest, I always pronounce your URL Tyrantus Terror. It's just easier for me to remember. He calls them in his stories greater drakes, and like 4-legged wingless dragons he calls lesser drakes. Which brings us into rather nicely into what a drake is. A drake is, in like kind of modern pop culture, a drake is a 4-legged dragon that has no wings. Which I've also personally applied to like 6-legged dragons that have no wings. Basically like a legged dragon with no wings. Except this term was also kind of archaic for just dragon in general. So, like, if you go read Tolkien, he calls his dragons, like, drakes. Like, Smaug is a fire drake, even if he has wings, because drake, it was just a generic term for a dragon. So, and, like, fire drake meant, like, a dragon that breathes fire. Cold drake is a dragon that doesn't breathe fire. So, drake can either mean a dragon that's wingless, like your stereotypical like Western dragon, but has no wings, or it could just be a synonym for dragon. And then we have wyverns, which is basically where all the contention comes from, is people debating whether or not wyverns are dragons. They're absolutely dragons, people. The best evidence, in my opinion, for whether or not wyverns are dragons is to just go, like, open a medieval bestiary and go to their section on dragons. I'd be willing to bet you anything the dragon will only have 2 legs. Because people just didn't care. The names, dragon names for, like, different types is a very modern invention. The idea of, like, oh, this dragon is this kind of dragon, that kind of dragon is that kind of dragon. In the, like, medieval Europe, every dragon was just a dragon and some had, like, unique names. So, like, there wasn't a Tarrasque species, it was just, this is a dragon, like, it's a dragon and its individual name is the Tarrasque. Like, there's not a Paluda species, it's just the Paluda, which is a dragon. The Gargoyle, which is a dragon. Fucking France, man. So, wyverns are defined as being a 2-legged winged dragon. I've mentioned this before just because this is a question that, like, both my friend and my mother have had. It doesn't matter if, like, the thing is a quadruped. Like, if it's using its wings as legs, they're still wings. Like, a example I use is, like, when a bat is crawling on the ground, its wings don't stop being wings, it's just now also using them as legs. And so wyverns need to have 2 legs and wings. Doesn't matter if it's, like, walking around like a bird or a dinosaur, like a theropod, that's still a wyvern. It doesn't matter if it's crawling around like a bat, that's still a wyvern. And it doesn't matter if it has wings and only front legs, that's still a wyvern. It's still a dragon that has wings and 2 legs. Now, I think I'm gonna blame Tolkien and D&D. I blame for a lot of things when it comes to dragons, so I'm going to blame them here too. Not Tolkien necessarily. Tolkien, I don't think I ever mentioned wyverns. They had the fell beasts, but those were probably more intended to be pterosaurs. D&D defines its dragons in a very specific way. It's true dragons. Like, even, like, wyverns are counted as a draconic creature, they're just not true dragons. This is fine for Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons is a game that can do whatever it wants with whatever it wants. Like, they have their rules, and that's fine. But the rules in Dungeons & Dragons only apply to Dungeons & Dragons. They're not applicable to the real world, and they're not applicable to other media. So when you're like, oh, the dragons in Game of Thrones or Skyrim or whatever, they're not real dragons, they're wyverns. Like, that's not true based solely off the fact that the work is defining them as the dragons. Like, that's kind of like the be-all end-all of this is, if a story or a piece of fiction or whatever says that the creature is a dragon, that's it. It's a dragon. Like, we can look at, like, things that are non-dragon in universe and see, like, if outside of universe they would apply to, like, the dragons. Like, Godzilla in his movies is not intended to be a dragon, but he's, like, once you take him out of the movies and examine what he is, then he does become a draconic figure. He's a large reptile, he has some sort of breath weapon, he rises from the sea. He's very archetypical of a dragon, even if in universe he's not meant to be one. But if something in universe is said to be a dragon, it's a dragon. Like, there's no debate about it. Like, we can debate whether or not the Kirin in mythology is a dragon or just a vaguely draconic chimerical creature, but that does not change the fact that in Monster Hunter it is 100% a dragon. It doesn't matter if that like weird starfish creature doesn't look anything like what a dragon should look like. They say it's a dragon, it's a dragon. Executor is a palm tree, it's a dragon. I don't make the rules, it's a dragon. It has the dragon type that automatically makes it a dragon. So that's kind of an important thing, is you can't take the rules of one universe and try to apply them to the rules of another universe, because that's not how it works. But we can look at things in universe and see, like, in terms of, like, if we took them out of the thing in the real world, would they fit the mythical version of a dragon? So, like, Lugia in-game isn't a dragon, but we have reason to believe he's based off of Ryujin. So, like, out of universe, Lugia would probably be a draconic figure, even if in-game he's not a dragon. So, wyverns are dragons. There's no debate that the form of a dragon with only 2 legs and wings is a dragon. You'll see these in medieval and like Renaissance art all the time. Like, possibly more often than you'll even see dragons with 4 legs. Like, the medieval people didn't care how many legs the dragon had. Like, the Tarrasque is an example. It has 6 legs, no wings, like the head of a lion, the feet of a bear, like a turtle shell, and a serpent's tail. That was 100% a dragon to the people of France. Like, the dragon. Like, it doesn't matter. We would look at it and be like, no, that's not a dragon. Like, to them it was a dragon, so it's a dragon. So, moving past wyverns, let's talk about worms. Worms are either, well, first of all, worm is the Old English word for dragon. So, like, the further back you go, like, every dragon is a worm. Which you'll even see, like, Tolkien used this as, like, the terms for dragons, like worms. But nowadays, it's typically used for just, like, a serpent dragon that's windless. Something I want to say. Never, I mean never, call an East Asian dragon a worm. They're not. Like, the two things are so distinct culturally. Like, worm is such an English, like, Old English word. Those are so steeped in their own culture. Like, at best, it's ignorant. At worst, it's culturally insensitive. Like, it's outright, like, rude to do that. Like, so worms and East Asian dragons are distinct creatures. Not called a worm. Next is lindworm, however you spell, there's multiple ways. Usually depicted as being like a serpent dragon from like Scandinavian-ish myth, like Germanic myth. Like serpent dragon, quite a few are aquatic, and usually they have like 2 legs. So serpent dragon with 2 legs. We have amphitheater, which is a winged serpent with no other limbs, so it just has wings. It's a serpent with wings, and sometimes the wings can be bat-like, sometimes they can be feathered. Important note that originally Quetzalcoatl did not have wings, so he would actually be not this, he'd just be a plumed serpent. So an amphitheater is a serpent with wings. And some have feathered wings, some have bat-like wings. It doesn't really matter, they're both amphitheaters either way. Sorry about the pause, I had to check something. Then we have dragons of East Asia, which is, in China they're called Long, in Japan they're Ryu or Tatsu, Korea, Korea they're Ryong, I think? Let me check. Yeah, they're Yong or Ryong in Korea.